This is the screencast for Lesson 15 in Stephen's C# 24-hour trainer. This lesson talks about manipulating dates and times and using time spans. In this try it, we're going to build a little stopwatch application. So I've already built the user interface for this. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a label, a couple of buttons. The only non-obvious thing is there's a timer control down here called Update Label Timer. Initially, its interval is 1. That means this timer will fire every 1 millisecond, which is much faster than the computer will actually fire the timer. It'll go as fast as it can, but 1 millisecond is faster than it can deal with. Initially, it's not enabled. Enabled is false, so the timer is not running when the program starts. What we need to do is add code to the start and stop buttons and to the update label timer. So, for the start button, what I want to do is record the current time, and then in the stop button, I'll record the current time then, and subtract the two to find out how much time has passed. Also, let me just create the stub event handlers. Also, when the update label timer ticks, I want to update that label on the form to show how much time has passed since we clicked the start button. Well, that means that the stop button and the update label timer tick need to know when the timer started or when we clicked the start button. In that case, we can't save that value, the time when this button was clicked, inside this method. Otherwise, these methods won't be able to see it. So again, this needs to be a field out here at the level where all of the methods in this class can see it. So this is the time we start. And it's going to be a date time variable. I'm going to call it start time. Now, when the user clicks the start button, I'm going to start it. So I'm going to say start time equals. I want to get the current time. You can do that by looking at the date time classes now property. All right, so now we've saved our start time. That's good. We also, at this point, want to disable the start button. I don't want the user to be able to restart the timer. So I'm going to say start button dot enabled equals false. I want the user to be able to stop the timer, so I'm going to say stop button dot enabled equals true. And finally, I want the update timer to start ticking, so I'm going to say update label timer dot enabled equals true. So the user clicks the button, we save the time, we switch which button is enabled, and we start the timer. So let's go down into the timer and see what it needs to do. It needs to figure out how much time has elapsed since the start time. So we need to get the current time, and we need to find the time that has elapsed between the two. And that's going to give us a time span. So I'm going to create a time span value. I'm going to call it elapsed. And it's simply going to be equal to the current time, which is date time dot now, minus the start time. Now the date time is a structure that represents the elapsed time. We want to display the time in a particular format. So it looks like this. So it's hours, minutes, seconds, and hundredths of seconds. So I'm going to say elapsed time label.text equals string.format, and then here comes our format string. I'm going to display the first parameter, which is going to be the number of hours elapsed. I'm going to format it in 2 digits, and then a colon. Then I'm going to display the next parameter, also with 2 digits, another colon, so that's hours and minutes. Now seconds, that's the next parameter in 2 digits, a dot. And then finally the last parameter, also in 2 digits. So that's fairly straightforward. Everything is 2 digits. Now the values. What we need to do is use the elapsed time span dot hours. That'll tell us how many hours have elapsed. Elapsed dot minutes, that's the number of minutes that have elapsed. Elapsed dot seconds, number of seconds that have elapsed. And there is no hundredths of seconds, but that's what I want to display. So instead what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use elapsed dot milliseconds and then divide that by 10, since there are 10 milliseconds in a hundredth of a second. Okay, so we're almost done. that's the timer that will display the time as the clock runs. All we need now is to be able to stop this thing. So when the user clicks the button, we're going to switch which button is enabled and turn off the timer. So I'm going to say start button dot enabled equals true. Stop button dot enabled is false. And the update timer dot enabled is also false. So that'll turn off the timer. So let's run the program and see if it works. I click start, and there it goes. It's displaying hundredths of seconds. They are going from 0 to 9 in the tenths digit. That one's going so fast I can't really read it. Seconds are counting up. That's all good. And we click the stop button. The button switched, so this one's disabled, that one's enabled, and the timer has stopped.